afternoon, morning to everybody who's joined us, wherever you're joining us from, to another Infinite Sport webinar in association with It's Just Football. One thing I've found particularly beneficial during this lockdown period is being able to listen, learn from people, not just in sport, but different industries, and then reflecting on, how can that sort of link to my role. And I think today's guest will provide another fantastic opportunity to do exactly that. We're delighted to be joined by Dundee United's Academy Director, Andy Goldie, who's very kindly offered his time up for the next hour or so to go through and give an insight into all the good work that's happening in Scotland. Andy has around 7 years experience with the Scottish FA, many years experience working in the academy set up in Scotland, and took over the Academy Director's role at Dundee United at the tender age of 33-year-old. There will be opportunities for questions at the end, so we'll open the floor up, obviously, when Andy's gone through his presentation, and I think everyone has anyway, so well done. I think everyone's well scripted with the Zoom etiquette these days, but obviously while Andy's doing his presentation, it'd be great if everyone kept mics on mute to avoid any unexpected interference. And that's my part done. So without further ado, over to you, Andy.
Thank you, Paul. Much appreciated. And I think the first shock of the day is that I'm 33. I definitely don't look 35 anymore after 15 months in this job. A few things to get started, guys. There's a few things that will definitely happen during this webinar. The videos will run slow at some point, and my kids will run in the door at some point and interrupt me and want to wave at you all, so bear with us with that. Hopefully we can provide you with an insight into our academy. So we'll start from the beginning. As Paul said, at 33 years old, I was appointed Academy Director February 2019 on the back of a new takeover at Dundee United Football Club with Mark and Scott Ogren, Mark in the bottom right corner there. As soon as they took the club over, they were in the Scottish Championship. We were just in the second tier of academy football. We just scraped into that tier, having always been renowned for being one of the best academies in Scotland. So when Tony Ashgar was appointed in the top right there as sporting director, it was very clear straight away that the performance strategy was going to be geared towards developing an academy that we could be proud of and that would bring success back to this club again. So some of the objectives over the last 15 months, we wanted to get back to Club Academy Scotland elite status, which is the top tier of academy football in Scotland. So it's your Cat 1 in England equivalent. Our talent ID and recruitment was going to be the driver for the success of our academy. We inherited an academy that only had one scout covering Dundee and Perth. There was no other scouts in Scotland at all for Dundee United. We wanted to boost the player pathway, recreate that player pathway again. There was hardly any young players in the first team when we came in, and again that was very rare for Dundee United. They've always had a rich history of success in developing their own players. Wanted to invest in our staff, but we also had to recruit staff as well. A number of the staff couldn't perform to the levels that we expected from them, and we also wanted to develop the staff that we had in there and give them opportunities to go and have a successful career in the game. And there's one thing we've always said, that academy is just not about players, it's also about the staff and their careers as well. And then we also wanted to create challenges for our young players, to give them different experiences that they would get. As always, academies take boys out of recreational football far too young, in my opinion. And we wanted to replace the opportunities they get with a boys' club of going to tournaments. Blackpool tournament, for example, in the UK is very famous. The teams would go over to Holland and so on. So we wanted to, yes, develop players by exposing them to different environments, different cultures, different playing styles, but also give them those experiences that, regardless of their success in football, they would look back at their time at Dundee United fondly and as the best years of their life. And to get that, we had to create a high-performance culture, a culture that really drove the success of our club, both in the short term to gain the Premiership, the Championship title, as we did this year, and Club Academy Scotland elite status, but also long-term to build sustainable success. So as we started to get planning, I think the first thing to do, yes, 100%, we had to look forward and we had to look to the future. But I think we also had to celebrate the history and the success of the club that we'd had in the past. And I think if I went back to Jim McLean's era in 1971, where he took over, and the mantra, the objective straight away was to build success with young Scottish players, homegrown players from the local area. And he went and done that. He won 2 League Cups, won the league in 1988. They beat Roma. They lost against Roma 3-2 in the semi-final of a European Cup. They beat Barcelona en route to the 1988 final, where they lost 2-1 to Gothenburg. And Paul Sturrock said at that time, in terms of the playing style, they were born well before their years. So I seen that as a challenge, because if they were saying they were already playing in a style of football that we could celebrate as success, then I think we could take elements from that and recreate that. So the history of success, and here this is just an overview of some of the players that have come through, some of the players that went on to achieve success at European level, international level, and that's exactly what we want to do. You can see the transfer fees there that we accumulated, and you look at the ages of that's still over 6 years ago. The latest one in Ryan Gold, who went for 3 million to Sporting Lisbon, and has just won promotion in Portugal there. So 13.4 million. So it was a very easy sell to owners to invest in this, but they very much seen it as one of the pillars of their future and sustainable success. So looking at our vision then, to look at ways of inspiring our young players, we had to lift their expectations of themselves first of all. Too often do we celebrate young players breaking into a first team, just at Dundee United, for example, or other Scottish clubs, and they don't really go anywhere else. The national team haven't qualified for a major championship in countless years now. I dread to think about it. But some of our young players, in fact, the majority of our young players haven't seen Scotland compete at a major championship. So we have to inspire the kids by using the Jim McLean era, by using eras of the past where we've won trophies and been successful with young players again. So we wanted to recruit, inspire and develop future generations of young footballers who will deliver sustainable success for Dundee United Football Club at national, European and international level. And that's the important bit. It's a sustainable success. It's not about a young player making 5 appearances. It's about continuously playing in the first team, being a first team regular, so that Tony Ashgar and Robbie Nielsen don't need to go and buy a replacement every year. Or they can look at the academy first and look to see the pathway to see who's coming through next. But also, we have to make sure we're creating the environment, and I alluded to it earlier on, that we can grow them as individuals as well. We're fully aware that not every player in our academy, regardless of the support we put round about them and the opportunities they get, they're not all going to make it. So we need to make sure that we look after the person first and really give them an experience they can look back, and as I said earlier, look back with the best years of their life. So that was a vision. How are we going to go about that? So this is our way, our curriculum model. Everything that we do is underpinned by those 4 corners. So our style, our culture, our identity, and our 6 R's. And I'll go into them in a wee bit more detail. In terms of our style and the football programme, the on-pitch coaching, we work in the 4 moments of the game. The 5th being set pieces, which we work in within every session. But the 4 moments of the game, in terms of attack, transition to defend, and transition to attack. And we work in them in 3-week cycles. In the 4th week, it's just games. We play games, different scenario games, different condition games, different sizes of areas, and basically it's just a check for learning, to give them challenges to see if we've developed the tools that they can then go and solve the problem for themselves in the game. And we're really big on that at Dundee United. We want to make sure that we're creating players who can solve the problems within the game themselves, real intelligent players. And we've got habits attached to all of those moments of the games, just to guide the players and where we want to go. And again, I'll explain that in a wee bit more detail. So the culture of the club, first of all, this is the main driver for us. This is the one, this is the corner out of those 4 corners that really going to help us deliver success. And as I was saying to Paul earlier on, myself, the gaffer, and Tony Ashgar, the sporting director, we have a culture workshop later on today as we continue to drive the culture within the club through all departments, not just in our academy, not just in the first team or the football department, but throughout the club. So some of the things we look for is, first and foremost, we want to develop a culture and drive a culture of accountability. So the message we always sell to the young players, to the parents, to our coaching staff, to everyone involved, is that it doesn't matter what we offer you, what support we give you, what opportunities we give you. Ultimately, we can't make you a footballer. We can't make you a footballer. You need to want it yourself. You need to drive when nobody is watching. You need to put in the hard yards when nobody's watching, the blood, sweat and the tears. You need to drive through the challenges, and we constantly promote that with our young boys. United together is one of our mottos as well within our culture, that we all do it together. So we all have the shared experiences, we all have the shared vision, we all have the shared objectives, and we'll work so hard for one another that hopefully we can achieve our vision together. And as I said earlier on, we put the person first in our academy. We're fully aware that young players don't all make it from under 8s all the way through to under 18s, never mind going on and having a career which can give them a livelihood. So we need to make sure we're developing the person first, and every decision we make has the young person at heart. In terms of the staffing culture we're looking to create, I want it to be diverse and also inclusive as well. I don't want it to be a dictatorship. We don't want it to be just one person's opinion. We're very open, we're very transparent. We show our vulnerability at times as well, but we also put our hands up and understand that we're going to make mistakes. So it's probably one of the biggest achievements, I would say, in the past 15 months, that I've got a team of staff that will challenge me, that will question things, that will come to me with ideas, because ultimately that benefits the young player and the young person. Our 6Rs is a technical performance aspect of our programme, and we're really big on this. We don't believe that our young players will be able to manipulate the ball or control the ball to play our style if they can't master these 6Rs. So we have a base of receiving skills, releasing skills, risks, retains, runs and regains. And we have non-negotiables that they have to be able to do. So as an example, receives, one may be that they have to be able to receive the ball with an open body with their shoulders forward. And we work hard within these. And again, I'll go into a wee bit more detail how that looks within a session within the structure of the club. Our identity, so this was one of the first things we introduced as we were building our style and educating the young players on our style. The way we sold this was anybody that's watching a session or anybody that's watching a game and they don't know any players on the pitch, we want 4 words that they'll say, that they'll describe what they can see. So those 4 words are aggressive, relentless, awareness and bravery. So regardless of how we're playing, regardless of the level of competition, regardless of the scenario of the game, regardless of the training session, we want those 4 things to be very evident. So in terms of aggressive, all of them are on and off the ball. So aggressive in terms of how they drive with the ball, how they dribble with the ball, how they attack space. Aggressive in terms of how they use their bodies to win the ball back, how they press. Relentless in terms of their mindset to keep going, regardless if they're very successful and they're 5-0 up in a game, or the opposite and they're 5-0 down. They're constantly being relentless to achieve their goal. The awareness part is the part that Scottish football's lacked in recent years and led to the period of unsuccess or failure. And that's awareness both on and off the ball again. So it's awareness in terms of their game intelligence, their decision making, their spatial awareness and defensive aspects, their distances with one another, how they operate within a unit, again the distances and spaces between one another, etc. And then bravery. The club crest, as you can see there, Louis' picture, has a lion in its chest, and we want that real Scottish bravery. We don't want to drop that. I think it's important that we celebrate that. I think that is part of our Scottish identity. Yes, we stand up, we fight our corner, but also bravery to take the ball under pressure, bravery to take the ball and go 1v1, regardless of how many unsuccessful attempts you've had in 1v1 situations in that game, and really believe that that only takes that one attempt that you can outplay your opponent and you can create a goal-scoring opportunity from it. So our style, and we'll spend a bit more time on this. Having spoken to Paul, I think this was probably the most, it'll be the bulk of the presentation, or what was most interesting for you. So we'll work on attack, since that's the most exciting one, because we'll see some goals. As I said, we split every moment into 4 sub-moments. And attack, it's build, control, create and finish. Again, short, sharp, punchy words that hopefully paint a picture in our young kids' head. And as you can see below them, we have 3 habits for each of them. But the way we work is we didn't want specific patterns. We didn't want a style of play that suffocated creativity or innovation on the pitch or individuality. So it was just 3 habits that mean something that our young players can relate to, that our coaches can feed back. Again, short, sharp, punchy statements that help paint that picture. So for build, we take the ball anywhere and play anywhere, under pressure. We be patient, we share it, and we trust one another. We solve the problem, we move the opposition, we change the ball speed, and we pass with purpose and quality. We look forward and break the press. And I'll show you some clips here to highlight how that looks under 11s, 7-a-side, into 9-a-side, into 11-a-side, and then into the professional programme with under 18s. And I'm sure you'll see some consistencies within that. So this is our under 11s and 12s age group playing Liverpool earlier this year. And again, you can see risks, and you'll see it as a bit untidy at times for the younger age groups. But again, those habits are so important for us. But you can see the bravery on the ball, taking the ball in front of their goal. Nobody's hiding. The centre mid's now in the full-back position. And these are habits that you'll see throughout all the clips. On to 9-a-side now, again against Liverpool. Very similar traits. Don't panic. They'll get a 1v1, 1v2 situation. They'll find a way to outplay their opponents and build out, rather than just kicking it aimlessly along and playing percentage football. Again, find a solution. We've got a 2v3 here, but we've managed to find the space to go and build out ourselves. We don't give them those solutions. Again, our habits hopefully encourage those solutions and encourage that bravery to take the ball. Into 11v11. I think this is our 15s here, playing against Newcastle. Again, similar. Again, what I would say is that the pressure isn't fantastic, so it is easier to play out. And of course, we have lots of unsuccessful moments again. But you're now starting to see a real identity across all our age groups, and these habits becoming apparent. Yes, they look slightly different depending on the age and stage of their development, but you can see specific habits. And then when you get to the under 18s, this is when we should really see it clicking in. And you see the bravery of a centre-back here taking the ball. Again, you've seen that for the clips early on. The spaces, the distances we've got between each other. And if you get it right, you'll end up getting the goal without the other team touching it. So on to control. We enjoy the ball, we're patient, we share it, we move the opposition. We always look to go forward. You've seen that in some of the clips there, 2 or 3 passes and we can break lines. That's always the priority. But when we can, if we're playing against a low or a mid block, we need to encourage them to be patient. Don't just force the pass. When we are passing, we pass with purpose and quality. We look forward and wide and break the block. And we look to isolate and overload, look at each other and rotate. And again, you should see the similarities between the different age groups and the transition from 7s to 9s to 11s here as well. Again, a bit untidy, but there's no panic. And they will concede goals from this. They will give the ball away and they'll make mistakes from doing this. But it's important that we continue to encourage those 3 habits and let them find the solutions and help them find the solutions as well. On to 9-a-side. Again, you can see here they'll get a bit scrappy, but anytime they regain the ball again, it's about controlling possession again. Can they play it? It's not just a case of they force the pass or they try and kick it in behind straight away. They try and play, and you can see it's nearly missed there again, but they'll always get that mindset that they go and play again. Again, against Rangers this time, this is gone to 9-a-side with their under 13s. You can see very congested area, but they're patient, they move the ball quick round about the outside to create the opportunity. 11-a-side here, and the funny thing about this one is the bus broke down on the way to Newcastle and the strips were locked, the hydraulics went in the bus, so we actually had to wear Newcastle's away strips here, but our identity and our style of play doesn't change. Thankfully they had tangerine strips, so it wasn't too difficult. But again, you can see the players' willingness to break the lines, take up brave position, take the ball under pressure, find a solution to get out of the situation, even though there's a 1v3. And again, no rush to go forward. If they can't go forward, they regain the ball. On to under 18s against Hearts. Again, bravery to take the 1v1 situation on. Don't always have to pass the ball. Don't force the pass forward as well. So if we need to come back out and share it again and be patient, we'll do it. Then we wait for the right moment to go and attack again. And that's a left back, and you see the rotation of the positions there. For create, ultimately, when you've got the ball, we need to start creating chances as well. So you've seen in some of the clips already. We like to position our players between and behind the opposition, encourage our players to hold the position, and make sure the opposition can't see them. Decisive in possession, look at their goal and try and cut them open as quickly as we can. And we encourage our players to play with bravery and freedom, look forward and take the risk, encourage them to take the risk. Don't worry about losing the ball. It's about identifying that moment when they go forward as well. Again, taking the risk from the goalkeeper. Then we've got the supporting runs to go and create the opportunity to score. Again, 1v3, but we find the pass and we've got the supporting runners to penetrate. And we do score some goals, I promise you. Again, you can see the size difference. This is the 15s against Liverpool recently. But we'll take the ball, we'll play. So here we like to take the risk. Face them up in the 1v1. We're brave. Now Lewis, we probably had 5, 6, 7, 8 attempts there where he lost a 1v1 situation. But anytime he gets it, his mindset is, how can I look forward? How can I break the lines? And then on to the under 18s, and again, you can see the similar traits here. Look to cut them open, quick combinations or dribbles. And again, unfortunate not to score. So let's hope when we go on to finish, we've got some goals for you. So in finish, we hit our target zones, we lose our man, we attack the goal. We're ruthless in the box, we lock it in and we kill them. And we're first to everything, follow it in, expect a loose ball. Again, how they go about that is entirely up to them. We want to promote that creativity, that individuality. But we've got these non-negotiables that hopefully paint that picture. And again, the punchy words, things like killing them. So as I said earlier, yes, we're looking to build, we're looking to control possession, we're looking to create chances, but ultimately we want to put the ball in the back of the net. That's what it's all about. You can see the happiness in their face there. We still promote that. We want them to celebrate goals together. We want them to enjoy those moments. Academy football can take that out of them sometimes. And you'll see in all the clips that they all go together to celebrate. It's that real promoting of the united together culture. Great example here of us locking it in the box. You can see the number of bodies we end up getting in the box to score the goal. Again, everyone celebrates it. And there's 15, 16s against Newcastle recently. And then on to the under 18s. Again, when they recognise that moment, that third man run, how do they go and kill the opposition? And again, everyone goes together to celebrate, and that's the important part of our culture. So how does that look across the academy? So that's how it looks in games, and I must stress that that's not how it always looks. There's lots of times where the games are frustrating, they're scrappy, the games break down. But it's important that we continue to work to our process, work to our way of working, and eventually we'll get there. So the under 18s make far less mistakes than what the under 11s do, but they've been ingrained with our style for longer as well. So for attack, we'll continue on that moment. The technical phase runs right throughout the club, but the vast majority of our technical work, 90-80% of our technical work, is under 8s to under 13s, and that's when we then start focusing a bit more on the tactical phase, but you can see the weightings across there are really high in the technical aspects of the game. We're at 90% up to under 10s, 80% up to 13s, but all the way through the tactical phase, it's still 70%, 50 and 60%, and then 40% as well. Constantly focusing on our 6Rs, but it just changes slightly. We start focusing more on position-specific attributes as they go through the academy. The tactical elements, so the 10% of the tactical elements isn't tactical performance as in systems or things like that. It's about decision making, it's about game understanding, it's about runs off the ball, how they use their body, things like that. So it's still heavily weighted towards technical, but just giving them that why. So why are we practicing this skill? And then as that goes through the academy, we start focusing on how to win a game. How do you win a game? What do you need to do? How do you manage certain situations within the game? But very early on, it's all about 1v1s, 1v2s, and we're almost adding numbers to that to build it into a real life 11v11 game. But those 4 things don't change. So regardless of what age they're at, we constantly work to those 4 things. And every session that we plan, or every session we run, every conversation we have, must relate back to those 4 things, so it's tangible. And then we've got all the support round about that. So it's not just what happens on the pitch, it's about the performance and data analysis, it's about the player education, it's about the mental performance, the player and family support, the games programme, both in terms of Scotland and abroad. Individual performance plans we're really big on, making sure that we're really focusing on the strengths of every individual player, not what they can't do, what they can do, and how do we make that better. Parents United workshops, we'll speak a wee bit later on again, is about educating our parents so that they're delivering these messages back home as well. And we've not got that conflict. It still happens, but less so. And then, of course, physical performance to make sure that we are developing them for the future game, not for the game just now, but for the demands of the future game. And you see the way Liverpool and Man Cities and so on are playing, that's only going to increase. So we need to make sure we're ahead of the curve and we're looking ahead of the immediate future, or the game at the weekend. What does the future game look like? So that's our academy programme, our traditional academy programme, which is run in the evenings. But for those that follow Dundee United on social media or seen the news recently, we've just recently introduced our academy at Baldragon. So after my initial period of evaluating the academy programme, what it looked like, the pros, the cons, and then comparing that to the best in Europe. And if you go back to our vision, I didn't want us to compare with our neighbours up the road. I didn't want us to compare ourselves with anyone in Scotland. I wanted us to compare with the very best. If that's where we're wanting to produce players for, Europa League, Champions League, World Cups, European Championships, then we need to compare ourselves to the clubs and the academies. And it was very evident early on that we weren't giving the kids enough hours. We had increased their hours, but they still weren't getting enough hours of quality contact time on the ball. So we created our own school programme where our very best players will now attend Baldragon Academy to combine their studies with their football education as well. So as part of their timetable, they'll have periods allocated to Dundee United Academy every day, which gives them over the 4 years an additional 1,280 hours of additional quality practice. Now that's across technical performance, tactical performance, analysis, multi-sports, mental performance, informal support as well, nutrition, lifestyle. But it's that over 1,200 hours of extra practice, which is always focused towards what they need as an individual rather than what the team needs or the collective needs. So they all have an individual performance plan, but as I said earlier on, that is focused on what their strengths are. We always remind our young players, what are you good at? Why are you at Dundee United, rather than you can't do this or you can't do that? Because if we continue to focus on their weaknesses all the time, we'll never have a stronger player. We'll just constantly be producing average players. Whereas if we can really focus on the 3, the 4 strengths and make them super strengths, then the chances are we're going to have a better chance of achieving our vision. Of course, the education is first and foremost paramount to this programme. We will be checking up on the kids to make sure they're not falling behind in subjects, to make sure they're handling their work, to make sure that they're leading by example in our culture, and making sure they're role models for that within the school as well. And we'll be flexible with that and support them with that as well. We also have a transition programme where these kids will get a full day off school, where they get to experience what it's like to be a full-time professional footballer as well. And again, that's part of that transition from academy into the under-18s and full-time environment. But the main driver for us, and I've always been uncomfortable with how many hours that we take out of young kids' lives that are involved in academies. I just feel we complain at under-18s in Scotland, under-18s, that kids don't have leadership skills, or kids don't have any use of their initiative, or they can't be creative. But when you look back at it, we actually don't give them any time, because their week is so structured that it doesn't allow for any time for free play, because they train 3, 4, 5 nights a week, they play 2 games at the weekend, they're at school for the rest of that time. So where do they get the chance to go and experiment, or go and make mistakes themselves, or go and find their placing within the group, their social placing within that group, and overcome those challenges, real life experiences? So this programme now allows us to finish training for these kids at 6 o'clock at the very latest, 3 nights a week, 4 o'clock for the other 2 nights a week, so that they get the full evening to go and do what they want. Now, we know already from the feedback that these young kids are going to go and practice and get the ball out, but at least they're making up their own drills. At least they're being creative and using their own initiative and developing that leadership qualities that we're looking for in our under-18s players and our first team players. Whereas just now, if they're training between the hours of 6 p.m. and 9 p.m, we're taking that opportunity away from them. So we're looking forward to seeing the successes on the back of that. So the player pathway we spoke about earlier on, we didn't have many young players in from the academy in the first team when we first came in. Academies in the UK are renowned for hoarding players and really having a bloated system where there's far too many players. As I said, there's a very small percentage of these players make it. So we cut our players back by 25%, ran with smaller squad sizes. So the maximum squad we have is a squad of 12 players, whereas previously we inherited squads anything between 16 and 24 players. And that's the norm across Scotland. So it's a whole club approach now. So if we've got a real good right back at under 15s, there's no point in our scouts looking for a right back at under 14s or under 16s, because we're going to invest in our high potential players. We're going to invest in that right back. That right back will play both age groups. So he'll play under 15s one day and he'll play under 16s the next day. And obviously we'll need to manage his game time. We'll invest in the individual programme. The coach to player ratio is a lot smaller at that point as well. So we're giving our very best players the best opportunity. But the 25% that we did cut, we're also giving them a better opportunity, because they wouldn't have got the game time and the support that they needed, that was required at Dundee United, because it's not how we operate. So that 25% have went on to other clubs round about, whether that's recreational or other academies, and they're flourishing there. So we've done the right thing for the kid, and it goes back to that our culture again of making sure we do what's best for the young player, the young person. We also put in a full-time pathway. So the boys you can see in the background there were our first 13 academy graduates since we came into post last year. We've added some more players into that as well. So number 43 there, Lewis Nielsen's now in with the first team every day. So we have a space in the player pathway for Kerr Smith to stand in now. Number 40, it was the youngest ever debutant last year at 16 years old. Again, he's played with the first team this year. Creates an opportunity to push a younger boy in. So we've got an under 16 playing in there at 14 years old, now part of that squad. And we've got another 2 or 3 there that are now outside the under 18s age, or they've been out on loan as well. So as soon as that opportunity opens up, we can promote younger boys there. What we won't do is sign boys the same age and just block the pathway. So how we want to operate, we'll bring them into the academy at Tannadice Park, under 8s, 9s, 10s through to 16s. For those who are selected out of those players, they'll attend our academy at Baldragon from under 13 to 16s, full-time for the High Performance Centre under 18s, and then if they're still performing well and they've continued to develop as we expect, then they'll go on like Chris into the first team. But we're also fully aware that it's not just an upward trajectory all the time, and we make sure it's not. So in between each of these stages, or every age group, or every training session, or every game, we purposely give our young players controlled challenges. So we might start the star player on the bench for a run of games to see how he reacts to it, to see how he can cope with that, to see how he responds when he gets his opportunity. We might, the star player who's been playing over 2 age groups, he might only play 1 age group, and that'll be the younger of the 2 age groups. Again, just to see how he reacts to that. We might play players in different positions, again, just to see how they react to that. And again, it's building that resilience and that mental strength that when they do face these challenges, they can continue to go on that upward trajectory again and continue to progress through a pathway. So the short-term successes we've seen so far in the past 15 months, that's all the players that have been involved in Scotland training camps or playing with Scotland national squads at those age groups as well, which is fantastic. It's great to see them being rewarded for their success and for their hard work. But again, we go back to our vision, we want that sustainable success. And then all these boys here, as academy graduates, have all been involved in the first team this year, whether it's in a match day squad, whether it's on the bench, whether it's in the starting 11. We've had a few of them out on loan as well, in between the kind of their moments with the first team. Again, none of them are sustainable success. I think Jamie Robson is the only one right in the middle there. He's played over 100 games for the first team. The rest of them have just broke in this year, had their opportunities this year. But again, we want that sustainable success, so we'll continue to drive performance there. In the bottom corner here, Scott Banks. Unfortunately, we lost Scott to Crystal Palace this year. But again, we wish him all the very best, of course. But we also celebrate that as success, that big clubs in England who, of course, have more financial power than us in playing in English Premier League are interested in bringing our best young talent down. So the staff that make it work. So yeah, I'm as Academy Director, make sure the programme runs successfully, but ultimately these are the guys that run it. So you can see the full-time staff we have in the performance coaching, plus the part-time staff underneath as well. Talent ID and recruitment, physical performance and data analysis, and then operations as well. And I'll go into a wee bit more detail about those individual roles, but you can see we have a nucleus of 11 full-time staff, including myself, and then below that, the part-time staff give us a strong staffing network. So, player transition coach Dave Bowman, he was one of the players that played and had great success under Jim McLean. He's experienced the highs and lows of Dundee United, and he's an absolutely fantastic mentor for not just only our young players, but our coaches as well. We identified straight away that a big problem, and Paul and I were speaking about it earlier on, there's that gap between 18 and 23. Where do the best young players go? They disappear off the surface. The next big thing becomes a has-been and falls down the leagues. So player transition coach role was developed and created for that specific reason, to make sure that we're managing that transition between under 18s and development squad. We've also got Brian Grant, head of player pathway and loans, who does that from development squad to first team. But that's just not on the pitch, that's the off-field support as well, sharing experiences, giving advice, and again, that informal mentorship there. And also Bo, as well as Brian Grant, will go out and feedback on the players we have out in loan as well. Adam, head professional performance coach, again, we really focus on the transitions between the age groups. So we have a number of under 16s already playing in the under 18s. So Adam takes weekly sessions with them in the evening, as well as the full-time sessions at under 18s, and assists with the development squad. And again, it's just to make sure that coherent and consistent approach across all of those age groups is adhered to. We also want his role is to develop the tactical intelligence and game management of the young players. We've given them our 6 Rs. We've developed them within our style of play. Now, how do we change that depending on the scenario of the game? Adam's role is make them win. How do we develop them in our style without sacrificing that to win games? And of course, the individual performance plans is under his remit as well. We changed the structure from what we typically see in Scotland. In Scotland, and I think down south as well, we have almost a head of foundation phase and a head of youth programme. We wanted to work that different. We didn't want to compartmentalise our academy. We wanted, as I said, to be consistent, coherent all the way through. So Tam's role as head of tactical performance is to make sure that our style is implemented across all formats, 7v7, 9v9 and 11v11. So that's in terms of decision making, game awareness, game understanding, following our habits, and he's in charge of that, and particularly coaching the coaches to continuously educate them and then to impart their knowledge on the young players. And he also works hard on the position-specific development as well. As we spoke about, that could be technical or tactical, mental or performance analysis. Head of technical performance, Andy Payne, again, works across all age groups and oversees all age groups along with Tam. Again, his big focus is on our 6Rs, and you've seen the weightings of the technical performance earlier on, 90% of the younger age groups, and it follows through to 40%. So again, he's making sure he's overseeing all the individual performance plans across the academy to make sure that we are developing what our players' strengths are as well technically. And again, he's a coach educator for all our coaches. Goalkeepers, again, self-explanatory role, in charge of all the goalkeepers across the academy, but also work closely with our outfield coaches to develop the tactical elements of a goalkeeper as well. And he also heads up the talent ID and recruitment strategy for goalkeeper specific. Jordan Moore, former academy graduate at the club. He has worked wonders in the last year. As I said earlier on, we inherited one scout. When we come in, Jordan's now grew that scouting network to 18 scouts covering 13 different regions in Scotland. But he's also developed a real good network of scouts that work at recreational clubs and who feed back to us constantly about players they've identified as well. And then that allows us to go and watch that player. So again, 18 scouts can only watch so many players. And we've also started developing our scouting network over to the UK and Ireland as well. Head of physical performance, Ewan Anderson, he leads on the under-18s, but he also manages the under-11s to 16s programme, and he has 2 part-time staff working under him to deliver that. We also work very closely with Ewan, particularly Tam, Adam, Bo and Penny, to make sure that the workload and the periodisation of the training programme meets the needs of the physical performance aspects. Club legend, Jeff Clark, that I'm sure Paul might know as well. Again, had a good strong playing career, physio for the first team, and now he's putting that knowledge, spreading his knowledge and sharing his knowledge and expertise with our young academy physios as well. Again, he leads on the under-18s and development squad, but also supports 11s to 16s, and he's sole responsibility for the assessment and rehab, return to play for our young players. Aaron Butters is the latest recruit, again, and he oversees and runs the performance and data analysis. So we want him to evolve and educate in our style of play. It's not a case of he just cuts clips that we ask him to cut. He's looking for ways that we can continuously improve. And that's both for the style of play and our 6Rs and individual performance plans as well. Can we cut clips that are specific to the individual performance plan? Can we cut clips that are specific to improving one of our 6Rs? And again, constantly developing that style of play and our way of working to drive performance. And as you've seen, I've managed to cut all staff down to 3 bullet points to summarise their role. But this guy, I'll need to speak highly of him because I've seen his name pop up in the chat earlier on. Head of Academy Operations, Michael McPake, managed to squeeze it to 5. Probably we could have had 15 bullet points there. But a big part of his role was the player and parent support and education, staff recruitment, player registrations, the games programme, both domestic and abroad, and then the logistics of how do we actually get there, the transport, the timings, etc. So basically he's the guy that works behind the scenes, that puts everything together that allows the guys in the top line there to do their work to a high performance standard. So I spoke about it earlier on, there was no point in us recruiting new staff if we weren't going to invest in them ourselves. Yes, we're going to do things our way, the way that we believe them and the way it's backed up by research, but we also believe we can go and learn from other experts in the game. And it's been great to see so many of our part-time and full-time staff logging into webinars, sharing their ideas, trying to learn and improve themselves during this period as well. So yes, we'll invest in coach education, of course, but we'll also bring best practice to us. And you can see Arsenal assistant manager Steve Round there delivering a CPD session for our academy coaches, but also benefits the players as well. And then we go on club visits, so we'll visit Liverpool's academy, for example, in that picture, to share and steal best practice from them to continuously evolve our programme and keep up with the modern trends of the game at that level. The additional games programme, as I said earlier, this was about exposing our players and giving our players that opportunity to experience playing against different backgrounds, different cultures, which ultimately give them different challenges, but also give them fantastic memories that they can look back at as the best years of their life. This was a selection of our additional games programme this year. I think you've seen some of the Newcastle and the Liverpool clips, but you can see the variety of different continents, different countries, different clubs throughout Europe and across the pond as well. Paul asked me to give you a wee bit on this as well. So this has been a challenging period for us all. As things broke out at the start of the year in China, you could see how things were going to develop. Not as quickly. We hoped it wasn't going to be as quickly, but we could see how things were going to develop across the rest of the world. And ultimately that's proven the case as the majority of the world is now in lockdown. Straight away, we look back at our culture and accountability. We didn't want anybody, staff nor players, using this time as an excuse not to improve, not to invest in themselves, not to do additional work, not to find a way to control the controllables and improve. And we've constantly sold that message that yes, you can come back a better player, or you can come back a better coach, or you can come back ready to perform better in your role, regardless of what that is. So in terms of the players, I think for those that follow us on social media, we've shared the resources publicly as well, which have had great success. We've had countries all over the world and players all over the world downloading our resources and technical performance and our position-specific resources for goalkeepers and strikers in particular. Again, these are all focusing on our 6Rs and really trying to drive technical performance during this period of time. They've all got a ball in their house, so there's no excuse why they can't do it. The homework tasks that we've set, I've really tried to enhance the wording and the language that we use in our style of play. Some of the words that you've seen there, so our habits, our sub-moments, but also we'll throw in some technical challenges as a bit of fun and a way to get them all together in social media and compete against each other. We've started delivering virtual workshops as well, so I've been delivering our style workshops, again using model pros, so using clips from Bayern Munich, from Dortmund, from Juventus, from Man City, from Liverpool, just to show the young players what it looks like at the very top level, the level that we're trying to aspire them to reach themselves. But also technical virtual sessions as well, which you can see was a resounding success last night. Loads of thumbs up when we asked for their feedback. And again, Paul Cowie in the top left-hand corner there put the session together and then delivered the session last night to them. Continue to deliver our parents' education workshops. Again, it's important for us that we continue to promote that culture of being united together, that collectiveness and that sharing the objectives and their goals, and continuously educating the parents on that as well. So again, so they understand their role in their football development during lockdown as well. And again, getting their feedback, and it was great to hear their feedback on the lockdown programme so far. And I think, saying to Paul there, with over 85% of our young players feel mostly engaged or fully engaged in the programme, which is fantastic. I think it was 88%. So we'll get 12% that were lower than that, but most of that was because their parents work in the front line. So it's been a real success. We've also continued our player and family support. Head of Child Wellbeing and Protection and myself are in constant contact with the players. We've had several individual Zoom calls with players as well, just to check in with them, just to keep their spirits up as well, and just help support the families in any way we can during this period. And we're just about to roll out a mental performance homework task for us to help find out a wee bit more about our young players again, so that when we do return to our academy, we know even more about our young players, so we're ready to drive performance for them again. And I think for those that have possibly seen this already, this is a great wee video. I thought it would be a good way to finish, highlighting the outcomes of our recent tactical There we go.
That's absolutely superb, Andy. I can't thank you enough for that. I think when we spoke briefly around sort of what we thought, you know, the people might want to see, whether the people on here now or the people that we share this recording with, who couldn't fortunately make it with the time that we're doing. But I mean, you've kind of covered everything and gone much further. So, you know, I can't thank you enough for that. I think your willingness to sort of share everything, you know, you've already alluded to that there, where you've uploaded everything on live for people to download, and obviously I don't think you've left any stone unturned there in terms of covering everything that you guys do there. So for that, like I say, thank you very much. I mean, I know I have some questions. Again, I know I'm conscious of time, so you've got a meeting with the gaffer, so you definitely can't be late for that. But without running the risk of it being a conversation between you and I'd like to sort of take this opportunity to open up to the floor, really, on the people that are remaining on the call. Anyone got a question? I know Chris has he's put in the chat. Chris, if you just want to unmute yourself, mate, and fire it away.
Yeah, cheers, Paul. Andy, how you doing? That was excellent. Very, very impressive.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
I'll just, I mean, a few things, and like Paul said, I won't going to keep you too long, but that culture meeting you got with the gaffer and the sporting director, what will that consist of? What will you talk about in that?
Yeah, so I think the gaffer had just come in just before the takeover had happened. So quickly, straight away, he'd set his own culture. And then when I came in, we'd set our own culture as well within the academy. So it's almost just combining those two together. So as I said, we've got that shared culture right throughout the football department, but also across commercial and media and finance and all other aspects of the club as well. We'll keep it at 3 values. We don't want to have it as 4, 5, 6 values, but it's really drilling down to what the 3 values are that sum up what we all believe in, what all our cultures are just now as well. And I think if we can bring all that together, we'll get a better chance of achieving our vision if we've got everybody working to the same culture. Yeah,
no, it was excellent. And just on the other thing, I mean, I'm not sure if Paul's going to ask as well, but young Declan Glass, he's been out and trained with us actually a few years back. How's he getting on? Because I saw he broke through and then he's been on loan and stuff.
Yeah, Deco's a great lad. He's the type of player that I love working with, because he's got a bit of arrogance, he's got a bit of swagger, but he's got humility with that as well. So he's well grounded and he works hard behind the scenes, and you can see that in his game, like the way he takes the ball under pressure. He's highlights that bravery on the ball to take it under pressure and try something new. Every time he comes on the pitch, his first reaction is some sort of Cruyff turn, create a bit of space, and then shoots for about 30 yards. And it's brilliant because it gets the fans in the edge of their seat straight away. He had a very successful loan spell at Cove Rangers in League Two this year. Brought back, and he had an impact on obviously winning the league for us. But hopefully he's got a more sustainable impact again next year. But great lad.
Brilliant. It's good to hear. And the challenges, obviously what you've laid out there is fantastic, but the challenges that you come up against, particularly obviously with the big two clubs over there, what are your main challenges?
Main challenges are keeping everybody in sight of the long-term objectives and not just constantly assessing short-term. To get to the long-term, I alluded to it in the player pathway, there's also a lot of failures and setbacks as well along the way. So there's a lot of things that we'll try that won't work, just like the players. They'll try things that won't work. They'll have dips in their performances as well. But everything that we do is with the long-term vision of our club in mind and the benefit of the young player in mind. So yes, it might not automatically give us short-term success, and yes, it can be frustrating short-term because maybe, for example, just use playing style. We're asking them to build out for the back and take the ball under pressure, and parents see their son giving the ball away and they can see the goal in the back of that. Just about that constant education of assuring them that this will be all right in the end. If they keep doing this and they keep practicing our habits and they don't sacrifice our style, they'll get and play with under 18s and in the first team, and that will drive the style right throughout the club at that point.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, thank you very much, and good luck, obviously, when you get back on the pitch.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that.
Cheers.
Thanks, Chris. I know there's two actually popped up in the chat box from Goldie there. I know one of them I think I can answer probably on your behalf, and they know Goldie asked around how he can sort of gain access to academy matches and videos, so under 11s, 15s, 18s. I know certainly under 11s, 15s is obviously protection there around obviously the children and sharing footage. So I know clubs obviously be and rightly so protective over that footage. So you wouldn't be able to sort of gain access to that. But around under 18s, just around that, Andy, is there any access around that?
Yeah, under 18s, all our highlights packages are on the Dundee United website, so you'll be able to see them on there if you visit there. I think it's Arab Zone it's under.
Fantastic. And then the second one called Ibsas there is just around gaining a little more insight in terms of what the parents' workshops look like. So I know you mentioned it there, and getting the parents involved, which I know it's massive for us, and getting them involved on that journey. So you just give a little bit more insight in terms of how they look, how them parents' workshops look.
Yeah, to be honest, it's almost replicating what we're telling the players. So that there's no mixed messages going home. So a young player going home and saying, just for talking sake, Andy was asking me to work this and this, and then the parent then makes his own mind up or her mind up what that means. They've got their own perception. Whereas if we give them the same messages, the same wording, the same language, the same process in advance, then it helps the understanding of the parent once they have that conversation, and particularly when we're trying to set these challenges for the young players as well, to almost not experience failure, but experience a bit of adversity. The parent then knows how to deal with that because they knew it was coming in advance. It doesn't stop all our problems. We still have meetings, but it gives us a real good reference point. Remember that time we worked on this. Remember that time we worked on that. This is why we worked on that. So it gives us that reference point to look back on that.
Sure. No, thanks. That's great. I'm not sure whether there's any more questions for anyone else. I mean, I've got a couple, but like you say, if anyone has got any questions just while we've got Andy for the next sort of 5 minutes or so, please let me know. One I was going to ask Andy is just around the games program. So I think part of your presentation there showed, how carefully you go around the additional games programs. So just around sort of the thought around those games. Do you sort of, I noticed on one of the clips under 13s, it was like a 9v9 format where traditionally you would get under 13s and you would predominantly play 11v11. So how much thought goes into the games program? Because obviously it is a massive part of the player's development. Is that sort of planned well in advance? Because I think, just on the few sort of, and especially the last slide there to show the teams that you're exposing the players to is absolutely fantastic. So just how much planning around that goes into like sort of prior to the season happening and the additional games that you have?
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive. It's one of the first things we wanted to introduce when we went to the academy, and I said firstly to give our kids those experiences and those memories. regardless of their success. But from a developmental point of view, we want to give them as many different challenges as possible. So yeah, we'll automatically get the different backgrounds, the different cultures, the different playing styles, the different formats, whether it's tournament or friendly format. But we also look to give them different formats in terms of the style. So whether it's 5v5 indoor tournaments we go to, or 7v7 or 9v9, because again, it gives them that additional opportunity as well. But we make sure that all our young players get at least 3 opportunities a year to go and experience playing against a team out with Scotland. So there's a lot of planning goes in it. There's a lot of time goes into that to make sure that we can afford these opportunities to our young players, especially now when we're now trying to regain all our money for our flights. All the tournaments have been cancelled this year.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, I hope the players weren't damaged too much psychologically, having to wear the Newcastle kits as well. I felt like I'd have called the game off, I think. Just and again, just on the games programs. I know you mentioned at the start around getting, or one of your sort of remits there is to get the club or the academy back to the elite status. Does what status you're at as an academy determine what your games program looks like? So I know obviously, you know, from the England background, if you're a Cat 1, your games program is predominantly Cat 1 in addition to obviously the extra games programs that obviously you guys do so well anyway. But depending on what elite sort of, or whatever status you're at, does that determine your other games program?
Yeah, so we achieved that, Paul. We achieved it within the first 8 months. So we were in performance progressive, which is tier 2. And within 8 months, we were successful in applying for elite status, which is Cat 1, as I said. So the games programme is one of the main reasons for that, and one of the main drivers why we wanted to get back into the elite status. It means now we play all the other elite clubs 8 times. So Rangers, Celtic, Aberdeen, Hearts, Hibs, Hamilton, Motherwell and Kilmarnock are the other 8 clubs. There's only 9 clubs in the elite status, and we only play the performance progressive clubs once. Next year the plan is, obviously that might change now, but we won't play performance progressive at all. So the elite clubs will only play the elite clubs.
Okay.
And then obviously we'll supplement that with our additional games programme on top of that as well. So it's been great. We started officially, the season runs January to December here. So we started the elite fixtures, so to speak, at the start of this year. Unfortunately, it's obviously been curtailed just now, but we've had fixtures against Rangers and Hearts, which were really, really good, and Kilmarnock as well, which were really good fixtures for us, real good test. But we more than matched that as well. So the process that we went through last year to develop our young players has prepared them for that.
Yeah, fantastic. And just the last one for me, again, because like I say, I'm conscious of your time, just around the staffing. What really sort of fascinated me is you look at, and again, some of the webinars that we've done and Chris has led on, where we spoke to academy staff from sort of Cat 1 academies in England, and even they've mentioned sort of what it looks like in terms of staff. But we also had a webinar last week where someone said, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, you're going to be the best or you're going to produce players just because you have 1,000,001 staff. So it's like, how did you manage those difficult conversations with the staff when you cut them down, sort of the players as well, when you cut it down to 25%, and how does that sort of look? Do you feel as though that close knit, where you haven't got a massive amount of staff, do you think that's more beneficial, and obviously the staff are willing to go the extra mile for the cause? Yeah.
So a couple of points on that. So the first thing, when I presented to the parents when I was first appointed, I shared some of this vision, some of the presentation slides that you've seen there. So they knew it was coming, they knew why it was coming, they knew it was for the benefit of their kid, that ultimately they weren't going to get the opportunities at Dundee United anymore. So rather than sitting on a bench, they could go elsewhere and play 90 minutes, and we would help them with that. So Michael McPake's role as head of academy operations, he oversees the player exit strategy as well. So we'd already identified other opportunities for these kids, and we spoke to them face to face. And to be fair, every bit of feedback they got for the parents was fantastic, because we were honest, we were upfront, and we were able to back up why we were making those decisions for the benefit of their young kid. In terms of the staff, again, the first meeting I had with all the staff, we knew we had to move quick. We wanted to achieve elite status within the year, and so we're ready to start in 2020. We wanted to get this programme up and running. So the message was pretty simple to them, that they come with us and they move at the same speed, or we shake hands and they move on. but not in badness. Just that, listen, we had to have players that were fully invested in this, and the staff that we've got, both full time and part time, just now are fantastic, Paul. The sacrifice and the work that they put in, considering the part time staff have still got full time jobs in particular, they put a lot of hours in behind the scenes, and they've really stepped up again during lockdown to start putting on some virtual workshops, technical sessions, constant communication, player and family support, and I think that highlights the quality of staff that we've got. But you're right, it's not about the numbers. It's not about the numbers. We took our time last year and we appointed the staff one by one and gradually appointed them to fulfill specific roles and specific tasks within the club. It wasn't just tick box exercises. We wanted to make sure that they worked it our way. So as I said, as an example, the head of tactical performance isn't a role the Scottish FA asked for. They asked for a head of youth that oversees 13s to 16s, and they asked for a head of children's 11s to 12s. But we wanted to make sure that there was more a kind of coherent approach right through the club as well. So we've done things our way. Yes, we ticked the boxes, but only when we thought the time was right and we'd identified the right person.
Brilliant. No, that's fantastic. It's really good to hear as well, because again, another discussion point we had last week was around the danger of sometimes clubs looking the same and having to conform into sort of prerequisites set by the governing bodies to sort of fit in with that status. So I think that's really refreshing to hear that you have your own stamp on things and you have your own identity. That's fantastic. I think we've got one more, last one. I think Paddy wanted to ask a question. Go for it, Paddy.
Hi Andy, how you doing?
Hi Paddy, hope you're well.
I'm good. It was good to listen to. It looks like you guys have really getting the club back to where it should be again, eh?
Yeah, slowly but surely. We've not achieved anything yet, Paddy, but hopefully
definitely heading in the right direction by the look at it. Quick one, just with you says like when you came in there was only like one scout covering sort of the Dundee area.
Yeah.
So now are you recruiting more kids from out with, or is it mostly like Tayside, Perth, Perthshire area?
No, we're recruiting kids from judging by your accent, you'll know your geography of Scotland. So we're recruiting kids from Lanarkshire up now. We try and keep it as close to a 1 hour radius as possible, Paddy, because again, back to that, we don't want to steal hours of their childhood away by travelling in a car unnecessarily. But we try and keep it to a 1 hour radius to the training ground.
Cool. Is that from like under 8s, or is it you try and get them a bit older?
Mostly with the younger age group. So if we're taking a kid from Lanarkshire or Glasgow, for example, which is, depending whereabouts you are, an hour and 15, they need to be special at that point. I don't want to ask any kid to travel that distance if we really don't genuinely believe they're here for the full pathway till they get to a full-time contract. We wouldn't take any risks with those kids.
And most
of the younger kids come from the surrounding areas, so Aberdeenshire, Angus, Perth and Kinross, Dundee, obviously, Fife. So that's where the vast majority of our kids come from. I think we have 56% of our kids are from Dundee. The other 44% are from out with Dundee.
That makes sense. And see the programme you've got at is it Baldragon Academy? Yeah. What age are you intaking kids for that?
Yeah, so we'll take them into S1. So they'll start in S1. So once they leave
12, 13?
Yeah, 12, 13. But we're also going to run a transition programme for P6s and 7s. So they'll come to Baldragon 1 day a week so that they get to experience what it's like to be in our academy at Baldragon as well.
Cool. No, the reason why I asked is because when I was younger, I played for Aberdeen. And as you say, like stealing sort of hours at your childhood, man, I used to sit in like a coach for 2.5 hours, like twice a week, sometimes to go training and playing games. So it was just interesting to see what sort of age group you guys were sort of bracketing that. And so that's why I asked that question, really.
Yeah, first and foremost, we want to give local kids the opportunity. But again, to achieve our vision, we want to make sure that we're bringing in the best players we possibly can from all areas.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Paddy.
Cheers.
Thanks, Paddy. And I think on that one, Andy, we won't take any more of your time. Like I say, I just want to thank you, again, for obviously for me personally, but like I say, on behalf of Infinite Sport and It's Just Football, we really, really appreciate your time. the detail in which you've gone, and like you say, your willingness to share, everything there. So I really, really appreciate that. And like you say, we have recorded the session. It'll be a fantastic resource tool for us. And like you say, we'll be sure to share with the people who indicated that they, unfortunately couldn't make it for the session. So thank you again. Good luck with your meeting with the manager, and good luck with obviously everything going forward. I'll definitely be keeping a lookout for the results next year in the SPL. Thank you very much, Andy.
Brilliant, Paul. Appreciate that. Thanks, Chris.